I say this to clients all the time. The main difference between an organic piece of content and an ad is one is driven by an algorithm to who it's pushed out to, an ad is driven by money. A lot of people think that ads are firstly like some miracle that all they need to do is plug some ads in, press some buttons and put some money in, and all of a sudden leads come pouring out of the sky. Obviously it doesn't work that way. The message trumps everything. You've got to make sure you're speaking to the right people in market. By understanding things like this, you can now start to work in line with Meta and its machine learning process versus just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. Alright, I'm running this training on the life cycle of an ad and how to win because it's become very apparent to me that there's a lot of people running ads that don't actually know how ads work fundamentally from a technological standpoint and where they actually fit into their ecosystem. So this is intended to debunk a lot of the technological myths as well as some of the just simple operator errors that are happening out there in the simplest form as possible. So ideally this won't go for more than 15 minutes, but let's see how we go. So first question, what actually is an ad? It's simply just content that's guaranteed distribution. I say this to clients all the time. The main difference between an organic piece of content and an ad is one is driven by an algorithm to who it's pushed out to, an ad is driven by money. And when I'm speaking ad, obviously I mean specifically social ads, not just TV ads or anything else. Specifically social ads, the core difference is one's algorithm driven, one's money driven. Now, obviously the ones with money behind them, your intention of when you create them is to produce some form of ROI. It's to use that ad strategically within the ecosystem to result in profits. So that's it. That's all an ad is. Now, why do so many people overcomplicate it? Well, it's because of what I just had to clarify then. A lot of people think that ads are firstly like some miracle that all they need to do is plug some ads in, press some buttons and put some money in, and all of a sudden leads come pouring out of the sky. Obviously it doesn't work that way. Some people confuse it with like TV ads, radio ads, and other different mediums of advertising when we're on a social platform, so it's not the same as those other mediums of advertising. And again, people just simply overcomplicate the hell out of it. And overcomplicating it is just costing them time and money, and they never really just see the success that they want. They either get stuck at a level and they cycle around that level consistently, or they just struggle to get off the ground. They struggle to really get ads to work for them because of the simple fact that they just don't know how things work. They don't understand how things work. So in the next 10 minutes, hopefully you'll have an understanding of how it works, because that's honestly how simple it is. It doesn't take that long to understand. So let's fix that. Firstly is the structure. You got the campaign level, that's where you set the objectives. The ad set level is then where you place the parameters, and then the ad is the content that you put in to be distributed. Super simple, campaign, ad sets, ad. And you'll have typically 2 to 3 ad sets within a campaign, possibly more sometimes depending on what strategy you're running, and then depending on what strategy you're running again, anywhere from 1 to 5 ads in an ad set. Some people do have more, but ideally you want less. So the first thing to understand is, where is the actual targeting done? Is it the campaign level? No. Ad set level? It's at the ad level. The ads do their own targeting. Targeting is done at the ad level by the ID that that ad has. So if you go into the URL, say you go into the back end of Meta and you go to share and post with comments, you'll see an ID. Every single post that you make has an ID, meaning every single post is its own unique web page. That goes for organic as well as paid. Every post has a unique ID, and this ID is what builds its audience around it. So that particular web page, that particular ID of that post will build its own audience around itself. You set the parameters at the ad set level, which depending on if you're using Advantage Plus or not, Facebook will stick to those parameters. So if it's age, gender, location, if you are using interests or lookalikes or things like that, you can set them as hard parameters, or you can use Advantage Plus to have them more as guidelines, but give Facebook the freedom, or Meta the freedom, to go outside of that. But that's not the targeting itself, that's just the parameters. Then the ad goes out and finds its audience within those parameters and builds audiences around itself. So when an ad launches, if it's half decent, you'll get some early results because it goes after the lowest hanging fruit. That could be people already in your sphere, or it could be people that are showing buying intent within your particular vertical. So it will go after those low-hanging fruit first, and you'll get an initial burst of results. From there though, this is where most people then tend to ruin their ad account, because Meta's then going to go take that ad, and that ad's going to go on a bit of a journey of its own. It's going to start going into audiences left, right, up, down, diagonally, everywhere. It's going to go to all these, as you can see on the screen, all these different audiences are going to start to get tested. And what Meta is really looking for is people that like this content. So based on this low-hanging fruit, it's going to find people that it believes are sort of like that. So it creates almost its own lookalike audiences of people that responded positively to that initial burst. Now this is what you would call the learning phase, where it's going through and testing various audiences and trying to find the ones that like what you have to say, like the content, and the ones that don't. And it will show it to more of the people that do like it and less of the people that don't. So this is why typically when you launch, you might see a good few days, a good week even, and then performance starts to slide a little bit. Or it might even, depending on the size of your audience, you might even get a good couple of weeks out of it. But then eventually performance either stagnates or slides, and that's just simply because we're going through this learning phase. We're going through this audience testing where Meta's trying to just figure out who is the best people to show this content to based on, one, the content, people that actually will like it and resonate with it, plus the business objective. Now, if the content is not platform friendly, you'll pay a higher CPM because it's not necessarily giving the audience a good experience. But that doesn't necessarily matter depending on the objective of that particular content piece. But the other side that comes into the equation is our objective. We're looking to schedule appointments, get leads, purchases, whatever we've set the objective as at the campaign level, and then obviously the event at the ad set level. So to give a visual representation, we launch the ad. It's going to give a bit of a kick initially, and then we'll go through the learning phase where results will be up, down, and typically will be a little bit worse before they start to get better. And then the ad starts to stabilize, and it will either hold steady at a good range, or it will just continue to improve over time as it gets better, as it gets more learnings, as that ID starts to know more of who actually wants to see this content and hits our business objective. So that's why if you have left an ad running for a little while, you will tend to see the performance lift if you have structured the campaign correctly and not running into things like ad fatigue, etc., because you've either structured the campaign incorrectly. It can also be due to limited audience size. For example, if you're in an area that has 10,000 people, you're going to burn that area pretty quickly. But that doesn't mean you have to run into ad fatigue if you structure the campaign correctly and the strategy correctly. But I'll go a little bit into campaign structure a little bit later on, but not necessarily. Maybe I'll cover ad fatigue, we'll see. So the next thing we need to know is, what data are we feeding Facebook? We need to make sure that when we're trying to go through this learning process and find the people that like and don't like, we're also giving Facebook or Meta the right feedback from our side as to who's qualified, who's unqualified, what's the right action we want people to take and the right people to take. So if you're running ads into Messenger, for example, we need to make sure we're using Business Suite and flicking this lead stage to either qualified or not qualified as we're conversing with a prospect, so that Meta knows, okay, this prospect was not qualified, not a good lead. This prospect was qualified, good lead. Find more people like that. So we need to feed that data back. Same if it's lead forms, use conditional logic to say qualified, unqualified. Unless you're like early days and you just need to get volume through, you don't even know what qualified or unqualified is yet for your business, then obviously just get as much volume coming through, don't use the conditional logic. But once you've got pretty tight parameters on this, then and you've got good flow, start to use conditional logic to split that out and have qualified versus unqualified, which as a segue point, this brings me to the fact that this stuff does not replace the fundamentals, which is your marketing message. Your marketing message will be what lands you in front of the qualified audiences. If that is wrong, it doesn't matter any of this other stuff that you're doing, none of it's going to feed the right data back to Facebook because you've got the wrong message. So the message trumps everything. You've got to make sure you're speaking to the right people in market. Then you can use the nuances and use Facebook or Meta to its maximum potential by utilizing little tools like this. And then the other tool is the Pixel or the conversion API you can use as well to make sure the right data is feeding back to Facebook. So you would have some sort of qualifying filter if you're running through to landing pages, for example. So you would have an opt-in, you might have a couple of questions to filter qualified, unqualified, then send the qualified ones to their own page where the primary event that you're optimizing for fires, if that's lead or if that's purchase, if that's schedule, whatever it is, make sure that that fires across. Just when you are setting up your primary event that you want the campaign to optimize for, to make sure you have enough flow to actually get out of the learning phase with that event. So for example, if you're only spending $50 a day and you optimize for schedule, it's going to take you a very long time to go out of the learning phase and go through this whole process, because the events are only going to trickle through. So it could take you months to get through the learning phase if your campaign and message is not optimized and you're not getting enough bookings to get out. So in that case, you would go through leads. But if you're spending, say, $5,000, $10,000 a day and you've got a torrent of leads coming through, you're doing 50, 100 plus leads a day, then you might shift the event to schedule. So even though it's going to take a little bit longer, you're optimizing for the best possible event that you want your campaign to optimize for. But you have the budget to allow the flow to get through that learning phase based on that event. And then as the arrows show here, unqualified ones don't have an event fire, just have the pixel there as a page view, but don't have lead or purchase event fire. For the ones that get filtered out as unqualified, still capture their details, as sometimes people do lie in their qualification forms, so still have them there to go outbound or whatever sales motion you're using, but just don't let the pixel fire the primary event back to Meta. So attribution isn't necessarily about giving credit. It's about what information do we want Facebook to see. We want them to see that this is what a qualified lead is. We send that back. Qualified, whether it comes from this ad, that ad, whatever. Yes, we'll get an idea of which ads are driving through the most qualified leads, so then that obviously gives us a area to optimize through, but it also trains the ads, trains the audience to what is right for our business. So we need to again make sure that firstly, the event that we're firing for actually delivers enough results that we can move through the learning phase and see enough volume come through, but at the same time gives the correct information back to Meta so it can continue to optimize based on our business objective. By understanding things like this, you can now start to work in line with Meta and its machine learning process versus just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. Now we need to understand how our portfolio of ads is actually interacting with each other, and how I do this is through a 4PI analysis. I was taught this by my ads mentor, Charlie Titchener. Shout out to Charlie, who breaks it down into such a simple formula that literally anyone can do it. So you've got, not that I'm a fan of top, middle, and bottom funnel as particular like structural concepts, but as a framework, you'll have more top of funnel ads. You'll have ads that have low CPMs, low daily frequencies, they pick up the most spend in the account, and they act more like prospecting ads. They go out there and they get touches with new audiences more consistently than the others. Then you'll have a mid-funnel ad, which will kind of sit between the top and bottom. It'll have a mid-range CPM. It'll have a mid-range, like 1.15 to 1.3-ish in terms of daily frequency. It will pick up generally the second amount of spend, and its cost per result will be decent. Forgot to mention the cost per result on the prospecting ads will typically be your most expensive, but they get you into the most audiences. The middle of the funnel kind of sits in the middle, as it suggests, and then the bottom of the funnel, the ones that are more conversion orientated, they're going to have the highest CPM, the highest daily frequency, and pick up the least amount of spend, but ideally have the lowest cost per result, because they are circulating within a small audience that is being created by your prospecting ads and capturing the people that are ready to take action on your offer. So we need to understand what purpose the ads are serving within our portfolio, and then use that within one campaign for our hero offer. So because Meta is a machine learning platform, we don't want to be duplicating a ton of campaigns, sticking tons of ads in constantly into our main campaign, because all we're doing is throwing more variables into the mix, which is just going to confuse the hell out of the machine. It doesn't know what it should be doing because it's testing. It's just constantly testing. If you're just throwing new things in all the time, you want your main campaign to be nice and steady, where it does get new things introduced, but steadily. Now we know, excuse the typo, that ROAS isn't the be all and end all, but we do still want to make sure that our ads are obviously having a positive effect on our ecosystem. It's all good to be like, ROAS doesn't matter, but if revenue's staying stagnant or worse, going down, it's not trending up, and we can't draw the correlations through our analysis and through trend analysis, then we don't really know what we're doing. And we're just, again, throwing mud at a wall to see what sticks. By utilizing one campaign, we can build everything around that one campaign as the hero of the account. So how that looks is we'll have the one core campaign, which our main hero offer will sit within. It will eventually build up some winning post IDs, unless you're running, say, into Messenger or into lead forms, then you can't use the winning post IDs. At that case, you'll just have either DCTs or creative concepts, and you'll just be seeing which creative concepts obviously win and serve what purposes in the account. But the main structure here I want to get across is this secondary campaign, or again, taught from Charlie, bear campaign, brand estimated action rate, that will feed this core campaign. So we do all of our batch creative concept testing inside this campaign, which I won't go into a full training on that because I won't disclose obviously Charlie's information, but in terms of the structure, we do all the testing inside this bear campaign to then feed this core campaign. So what we're looking for here with an awareness campaign is which creative concepts and which creatives within those concepts get the most action rate, which ones get the most clicks. Not necessarily because we think that that's the best creative, because obviously that can be subject to judgment, but because we just want to limit the amount of creatives we're stuffing into here. So the creative concept, for example, how I like to do it is I'll choose the concept. So let's just say it's an infographic. I'll have the same information on the infographic with potentially like 5 different designs. And then I want to see which design gets the most action rate. And then based on that design, whichever one comes out with the most action rate, I'll take that one, it might even be 2, I'll take that 1 or 2, and then I'll create 2 more variables of that one. I'm just going to say 1 for example purposes. So let's say we've got that one with one specific hook. I might create 2 more with 2 different hooks. Everything's the same, the images are all the same, I just want 2 different hooks. I promote them into the main campaign as a DCT, so that then they can go and test within our core campaign and see if they improve the performance, whilst we're still testing the other ones down here. The main thing is we just want to give these creators at least 2,000 impressions by doing it as an awareness campaign. We get that at super cheap, so we can go through the testing super cheap without disrupting our core campaign, because again, the more variables we introduce into the core campaign, the more unstable it's going to be. So we do all of our testing in here to isolate down to our best ideas or our perceived best ideas. We promote those into the core campaign and then see how they perform against our current winning creatives. That way we're able to build a stable and scalable ad account. So the settings for this of our core campaign is generally just age, gender, location. Unless you're early on in your brand building days, you might also use a broad retargeting audience. So you might hit age, gender, location, as well as page engagers, Instagram engagers, site engagers, etc. Just people that have engaged and touched your brand. But that's a bit of a different strategy. The core objective is to win it broad, but that can be used to help supplement that process if, again, you're at a low spend or you're early into running your ad account. So other campaigns that can go around this one to act as supporting campaigns, we can have a core offer retargeting campaign, digital air cover, follower campaigns, event campaigns, short-term promotions or deals, number of different campaigns. Not going to go into the depths of all of them here, but the main thing is for your hero offer, one campaign, test in that bear campaign, promote into the core, and then use these support ones to support that core and support potentially the post-click sales process. Then we must have a creative strategy. This is something I see so many brands miss out on, that the creative strategy must be able to tap into the various desires, awareness stages, and sophistication levels of your total addressable market. If you don't know what those are, then you probably shouldn't be running ads just at this point. You need to understand what your market wants, understand the breakdown of the awareness stages, which is by Eugene Schwartz. If you haven't heard of that concept, either Google it or grab his book, Breakthrough Advertising, goes through it all. And then there's sophistication levels, what sort of experience have they had with products or services similar to what you offer. Then these creative differentiators will go into your portfolio, as we don't scale through duplicating campaigns, duplicating ad sets, all that old school nonsense. We scale through creative diversification. The different creative messages that we have are going to help us tap into different audiences, the different creative formats we have: video, static, long form, short form, news release, us first them, all these different variables that we plug into our account and build our portfolio around. That's what's going to get us into different markets and speaking to different audiences, not just duplicating accounts, changing interests and targeting and this, that, the other. That's all well in the past, like 5+ years ago, probably more. Don't be doing that. That's not how you're going to scale an account. Utilize creative messaging, and for some reason or another, most businesses simply just don't produce enough creatives. You need to be producing creatives consistently. That doesn't mean, again, they're all going to make it into the core campaign. They might go through the testing phase. They might not make the promotion. They might get promoted but not beat anything that's in your account. But regardless, we still need to be injecting new creatives, testing, iterating, moving forward. Otherwise, the account can grow stagnant and we can be at the whim of market shifts as well. So there you have it. I think I went a little bit longer than 15 minutes, but I tried to keep it as simple and short as possible. Hopefully that kind of covers how it all works. So we've got the machine. It's a machine learning platform. It goes through 3 core phases: launch, learning phase, and then it stabilizes. Then we've got the structure, the campaign structure that supports machine learning. Then we build our portfolio, and we build our portfolio through creative variables. That's as simple as it needs to be. As long as you focus on that and you go deep on all of those 4 subjects, you'll understand how ads work and you'll be able to scale accounts. If you still get caught in hacks, old school methods of duplicating campaigns so you can put $50 in one, $50 in another, $50 in another to try and hack your way through to performance, not only is that a waste of time, but it's a waste of your money as well. So if you build around these principles, I can promise you your account will scale. Will it be easy? No. Will it require good testing, good strategy, etc.? Of course, but this is the most optimal way in 2025 to be structuring your ad accounts. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch, drop comments wherever this is posted, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Beyond the Numbers.